Hey everybody, Kelly here, your real estate ninja, and I have got a very good friend of mine, Terry Fallis, with Fallis Tax, and he has been instrumental in my life with helping me with this whole thing we call taxes. Guys, as real estate agents, and if you're coming on this video and you're not a realtor, but you're a small business owner, this man is a wealth of knowledge. I'm not going to tell you my whole story, but suffice it to say, I was one of those realtors that got a little behind, and I was afraid. I was scared. I didn't know what to do until I got a hold of Terry, and he has worked with me hand in hand. And we have, basically, he put my business back on solid ground and allowed me to start thinking for the future. And I can't tell him enough how much I appreciate him. And I wanted you guys, my audience, to be able to hear from a tax consultant as realtors some things that maybe you are not doing or you should be doing. So Terry, thank you for joining me on this video. We're live right now. There are people starting to watch us now. And by the way, if you're watching, you can always ask a question. But introduce yourself, and then I've got some questions for you, my friend.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Ninja. I do. It's amazing to be in front of you and your team. Yeah, a little bit about myself. Terry Fallis here, and originally from Ohio. Cut my teeth in the tax world out in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Was there when the market crashed in 2008. So I've seen it all, done it all, heard it all, and witnessed it all. And then now I've been in Florida practicing for the last, since 2012. So what is that? 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So I've been doing it for about 17 years now. I believe this is my 17th year.
Mm-hmm. So we've got several questions we're going to get into today. And before I ask you the first question, I want to ask you kind of a prelude question. Why do you think it is that, and I think we all know the answer, but I want you to share. Why do you think most real estate agents, since we're dealing with the topic of realtors and taxes, why do you think most real estate agents ignore this whole tax thing? What do you think's going through that person's mind based on conversations you've had with me and other agents as to why we do that and then wait until we need somebody like you? What is that psychology involved as to why we don't address this head on?
That's a great question to start off, and you kind of nailed it with the psychology part. When I go back to 2008 with the meltdown, I wish I had a psychology degree at that time, because it was more about the pain and the emotion and in the mental state of people versus what was, the taxes and everything. So it is a psychological thing. I truly believe that, because when you're a realtor, you're in the sales area. So it's what is that? The right side of the brain, I do believe. So left side of the brain is numbers, logic. So you're either one or the other. So most realtors I work with, they're amazing at what they do. They don't want to deal with numbers. It's not in their wheelhouse. So I think a lot of them just use that, and I wouldn't say as an excuse, but they use that as a model and then get behind and then realize, holy moly, we need to do something about this.
Exactly. I think about myself, and I think a lot of things go through realtors' mind, especially when it comes time to start thinking about paying taxes. Well, I might not have saved what I needed, but you know what? I'm going to go out and have a couple good months, and then we'll take care of it. And then the couple good months happen, and they didn't save. And 2 years later, they're like, holy crap, I got to do something. Well, what we want to do, real estate agents, is stop that madness from happening. So, Terry, the first question: what does the tax landscape look like for small business owners vis-a real estate agents today? What's that landscape look like right now?
Well, I have a client that has a funny saying that he always says. He's got a bunch of kids, and he says, it's partly cloudy with a chance of meatball, I believe. I think it's from a popular kids movie.
It's a kids movie.
Well, that kind of comes into play here. I think it's partly cloudy. And I say partly cloudy because there is some sunshine out there. I truly believe there's a lot of opportunities out there right now for small business owners. But I say a little bit partly cloudy just because of the tax landscape has changed. Taxes have gone up. Regulations have gone up. Depending on what state you're in, you might even have to deal with, more state regulations, because if you haven't noticed, the beginning January 1st or the 20th of each month, usually the new bills go into effect. So any kind of law that they passed back in October, November, they tend to go effect January 1st. So you might have to deal with more regulations, more red tape. So that's where I say the cloudy part comes in. It's a little bit more political. It's a little bit more on the regulation side.
Yeah.
Tax brackets always go up. We have a progressive tax system, meaning it's progressive. So the more you make, the more you're going to pay. The less you make, the less you're going to pay. So every
That's
year
the
the
fine line,
bracket
though,
does
Terry.
go up.
That's that fine balancing line. And I think that's where a lot of agents can get in trouble because we try to get uber creative, which can set up a whole series of red flags. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, exactly. Couldn't agree more. And that's where again I go back to where there's a lot of opportunities out there, and for people to try a small business. It's this SBA loans. There's so much going on, but the biggest thing I think with the landscape isn't really much on the tax side. It's more about COVID, in my opinion, the way people operate. Like my business now is pretty much almost 100% virtual because of COVID. It was a kick in the rear end. I think a lot of us needed to actually just go off virtual.
Well, and that makes sense because you and I have known each other for years. We met one time in the last year, and that was at a restaurant. The majority of our meetings with regards to our tax and what you're doing for me, we did virtual, right?
That's correct. Mm-hmm. Okay. And all my platforms are online, so everything's virtual.
Let me say this. If you're watching this live or if you're going to watch this recorded at this point of the video, towards the end of the video and then below the video on the descriptions when we're done, I'm going to post Terry's contact information. He is an absolute wealth of knowledge. So if you're a realtor, a business owner, and you need some consultation with regards to your taxes, maybe find out how you can save some of your wealth legally, or what to do about getting them prepared. Terry is absolutely he's my Jedi master when it comes to this stuff. So I'll make sure his contact information is there. Let me ask you this. We were talking before the video, and one of the questions that we talked about that was important, and if I get this wrong, correct me in your answer, but what's up with the gig economy? How does this work with regards to your occupation and business owners?
Okay. Yeah, that ties into the small business opportunities. Prior to COVID, the gig economy kind of came out of nowhere, and it really was more of a shift in the dynamics of how people worked. Between the shift in the dynamics of how people worked from an employee to a independent contractor and the growth of Uber and Lyft, it created this thing, what they call the gig economy. And they call it the gig economy because you get paid per gig. Instead of saying, okay, I'll work for you for $20 an hour, what we're going to do is I'm going to actually work and get paid per gig. So every time I pick somebody up, I get paid. Every time I, go and design a website, let's say, or anytime I consult as a marketer or what have you, or even realtors, you're independent contractors. So the gig economy was that side hustle. So you could be a realtor and let's say you got 2 days off or whatever, you want to do something else on the side. That's where the gig economy came in. Now, because of COVID, a lot of people actually now are full-time gig economy. It could be Amazon selling. It could be eBay selling. Again, Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Uber Eats. It's out there. And a lot of people now have gone into that direction where they've said, you know what, enough of working for somebody else. Let me see what I can do. And then they work when they want to work. If they got bills to pay, they work to pay the bills, and then they move on.
Yeah. So I think of the gig economy, and Terry, we've had a lot of. I'm that guy. I've got several different income streams. They are related to real estate, but they have nothing to do with listing and selling homes. So I actually fall. It's kind of funny that this was one of our questions. That's me. Now, there are agents and brokers that are going to watch this that maybe they have a property management company as well as they manage a team of agents that they get paid off production. They might have investment properties. And so they would also be a part of that gig economy where they're creating income in various different capacities. So I think as a real estate agent that this is applicable to, you really need to have somebody that knows what they're doing. And Terry, you were that guy for me. And guys, make sure that if this is speaking to you, you get a hold of Terry and have that Zoom with him. Now, let's move on to the next question, which I've been waiting to ask you because this really is applicable to me. One of the things that made me afraid to handle or tackle this issue was I thought it was like this big beast, right? And it's just, I'm never going to defeat it until we started talking. What are some simple steps right now that a new real estate agent or small business owner can start to do now that will help them with that dreaded evil empire called the IRS?
Yeah, your least favorite uncle, right?
Oh, geez.
So to go back to the gig economy thing. You had mentioned revenue streams. Back in Los Angeles, again, cutting my teeth, learning all the crazy in and outs. There was a client that had this philosophy that he believed in 7 different revenue streams. I had a client that I no longer work with now, but at that time he named one of his companies seven streams, because this guy believed that you should have 7 different revenue streams in order to be successful, because the reason being is that one of those revenue streams may dry up, maybe temporarily or permanently. You have 6 other streams. Now, to get there is pretty hard, no doubt. But what if you had 3? What if you woke up one day and you had 4 different revenue streams? So that's where the gig economy comes in, because it allows people, like you had mentioned, to have 2 or 3 different ways of generating revenue in case one dries up. We still got this coming in. So I wanted to, add to touch that, because you mentioned.
Terry, I think I'm at, just as you were talking, I'm thinking of all the different streams. I'm probably close to 7 right now, right?
Yeah.
Where 3 years ago I wasn't. I was just 1. And that means if I'm not on this, if I don't have a consultant like you, there's no way that I would be able to keep up with this. And I'm going to screw something up, which is going to have the evil empire coming after me, right? So I think it's important as you structure your business to make sure that not only do you do, I mean, it's good to look for the, the way to limit your, what you're having to pay, but you got to do it right, especially as you grow your businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, compliance is a big thing. My goal is to always keep people in compliant and make sure that that's the last thing they have to worry about. They can focus on their business. They can focus on their family, so that's why I would say, yeah, you're absolutely right. You want to have some, I guess they say, have some bullets in the gun.
All right. Is there any other steps that a small business owner or realtor can do now that will help them as they get ready to file taxes, or as they're planning for next year's taxes based on growth this year? One or two different things.
That's a great question. I would say what we just talked about, hire a professional, and it goes hand in hand. We go back to realtors. A lot of realtors watching this. So do you want to be hired as a realtor, or do you want someone selling their own house? You know what I mean? Like, some people will sell their own house. There's that people, just like there's that people that will deal with the IRS.
Correct.
My big thing is to get a professional, even on retainer. If you want to still do your own stuff, fine, but at least get someone that's in the tax industry that can help you out. So that way, in case you do forget to file, or what if you get audited? Okay, the IRS is getting a lot of money now with with all these bills being passed, that they're going to get more money. So audits are probably going to go up. So there's a good chance you might get audited. So having a professional already building that relationship with, then we kind of know each other, and it makes the process a little bit easier to work with. I'd also say one of the things as a small business owner is what they call commingling of funds. Yeah. I highly recommend that the sooner the better that you separate business from personal. So you get a separate bank account. And how you do that is by applying through an IRS EIN number. And you can do it through your social security number, and you have this EIN number under your name, and you go into the bank and you open up a business bank account. You separate your funds, because we go back to audit. For me to file your taxes, I don't need to know. I just need to know what your expenses are, what you did on Excel spreadsheet, financial statement, whatever. But if for audit purposes, we want to make sure we have all these things, So commingling, you're going to Disney, you're going to an amusement park, or you're going out with your friends or whatever, that's personal, so we want to keep that personal. We don't want those expenses to show up on the business. So the cleaner you are and you separate the two, huge step in the right direction. I'd say a receipt scanner. Okay. Because again,
that's a good one. Let me write that down.
A lot of small business owners are just, not enough hours in the day. So the last thing I want to deal with, and I'm this way, I hate receipts. Well, I have a scanner. The minute I get it, even if it's in my car, I hurry up and scan it and throw that darn thing away, and I put it into a simple year tax folder. So right now, 2022 tax. I buy some gas today, or I go out to eat with the client.
That's a great idea.
I'm definitely gonna scan it, get rid of the receipt, keep it in a folder, And God forbid if I do get audited, I got these darn receipts. So that's huge. You got to save your receipts, especially you realtors out there who are doing a lot of meals, going out and dining and everything. So I'd say the last thing you can do is what they call separate yourself from your business. And what I mean by that is starting up an entity for realtors. Again, going back to realtors, it's what they call a PA. If you're an independent contractor and let's say you're a marketing expert or you're a website designer, you can still incorporate yourself. It is one of the best ways to lower your chances of any kind of audits. It goes down to like 0.5%. So half of a return per 100 would get audited. So it's a great way to to lower your chances and then also just deal with the IRS.
And Terry, I actually started looking online, and if you're watching this, he just dropped a really massive value statement there. Go and do a Google search and even look at your app store for a receipt scanner. They're making them now where you can literally take your phone and scan the receipt and it'll put it in folders for you. I'm going to be doing that this week. You have provoked me because I already knew I needed to do that.
And I would also say, and I'd also say get an app like Mile IQ.
Hold on. Let me write this down, Terry.
Because mileage is huge. Mileage is a lot more than gas. You might spend $3,000 in gas, but if you drive $10,000 for business, you're getting like 56 cents, maybe 57 cents per mile. Well, again, for audit purposes, we need to keep like a mileage log. These apps provide that information for you. And all you got to do is swipe left for one and swipe right for the other. Personal or business.
For God's sake, if you're listening to Terry right now and you think that your way of getting out of paying taxes is filing that you did 50,000 miles this year, this will find you, right?
Yeah.
So don't do that stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So what I'll say too, and for those of you watching now, I do have his contact information. You will absolutely enjoy talking with Terry. Thinking of talking with anybody in tax is intimidating for a business owner. When Terry and I were talking, I felt like I was talking to a human being, somebody that knew and was compassionate, wasn't speaking over me. But, the things that you talked about, Terry, that I'd never even thought about, that's getting incorporated, getting the separate bank account. As much as I want to be projected as the real estate ninja and, I know what I'm doing, I didn't. And you literally walked me through all of that to the degree that I would call you up and say, hey, what do I do next? And that's what you need in a partner. Guys, if you're a real estate agent or a small business owner, you need to think of people like Terry as your partner. Now, Terry, we've got maybe 2 or 3 more questions, but real quick, a lot of realtors that follow me are going to be all over the place in terms of where they live. Who can you help in regards to this? Like if somebody lived in Dallas or Atlanta or Vermont, are you able to help them?
Yes, sir. I'm basically be able to help anybody throughout the whole country.
Right.
I can take care of it. When it comes to tax preparation, no problem at all. Any state that has a state income tax return requirement can take care of that through the software. Plenty of experience filing multiple states, so no big deal on the tax preparation side. As far as dealing with like bookkeeping, payroll, accounting, all that stuff, I can deal with any state. And as an enrolled agent, I'm actually enrolled by the IRS to represent people all the way up to tax court in any state.
So let's stop right there. Let's stop right there because that is a massive value. So guys, listen to this. I didn't want to deal with the IRS, right? Terry, I told you that. So when I hired you and you came on board and partnered with me, have I had to call the IRS or deal with them, or did you do that?
No, you have not. I dealt with it.
And sometimes you were on the phone for up to an hour or more, correct?
Easily. Mm-hmm.
So that's what I consider valuable partnerships. When you've got somebody that has this knowledge that will help keep me out of the evil empire's concentration camps, and also will be there as the mouthpiece for my business, dealing with people that I'm not comfortable dealing with. So guys, if that's you, and let me ask one more thing, and then we'll hit this next question. A lot of times, and I don't want to talk price right now, but a lot of times real estate agents don't want to talk to people like you because they think it's going to cost them $50,000, $10,000, whatever. I found that although there is a price to pay for this level of service, it's not that bad comparatively. Can you dispel this notion that realtors are going to go broke having to hire somebody like you?
Oh, absolutely. Again, it just goes back to the fees. Some people do charge a lot of fees. Me, I keep my fees affordable because I want to help people. I want to get people to go get more compliant with their filings. I want to help
Right.
people with deal with the IRS. So I make sure that I put my prices that'll be affordable in your budget. It just depends on how much heavy lifting. That's the way I look at it. But with me, it's flat fees. I'll tell you, yeah, hey Terry, this is what I want you to do. Hey, no problem. It's going to cost you about $500. And then
Yeah.
and we're not going to be nickeling and diming you, but
Right.
it's more affordable than what you think.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. Yeah.
I was shocked. I'll be honest with you. I was shocked because I had spoken to some big companies and I felt like a number, right? And I was intimidated. And their fee structure was like I thought I had to be Donald Trump to afford
Right.
them. So when I met you, not that you were cheap, but when I met you, I felt comfortable. You answered my questions and you gave me a clear pathway to defeat this thing and move on with life. So that was good. So we've already answered or actually started with the next question. So I'm going to jump to the one after because we've talked about things that realtors should be looking out for. I think we've covered that. Here's another one. Audited forms. You had mentioned auditing earlier. Now the question is audited forms. What are you talking about?
Okay, so when it comes to audited forms, the IRS has like a number system, and certain forms have a higher like number value that they add up. So when you reach a certain number with the IRS, it goes triggers to another pile, and then a manager looks at it or a supervisor, then they decide whether or not they're going to audit it. Okay,
Okay.
so some of those red flags are forms. Okay,
Okay.
so you had mentioned deducting 50,000 miles. That's a red flag.
Yep.
You might have driven that, but if you can't prove it, they're going to disallow it. If you can prove it, you get audited, you win, no big deal. But going back to that, as far as audited forms, yeah, the Schedule C is right up there with the earned income tax credit. The earned income tax credit for those that don't make a lot of money, that's a major, major audited form. But with regards to this conversation, small business owners, realtors, etc., that Schedule C that you're filing as a sole proprietor is definitely looked at. The average return is rate is about audit rate is a little bit over 1%. So that'd be a little bit over 1 per 100.
Okay.
I think right now Schedule C's from the last year tracked would be 2019. I want to say is at 4%. So right there, you 400% chances. So 4 out of 100. So you got your Schedule C, your business use of the home, which is a major deduction. If you have an office like you do, okay, and beautiful office that you use strictly for business, you can deduct what they call the home business use of a home. That gets audited because people will slam the heck out of it with expenses. So there are forms as an independent contractor that you have to file. You have to file a Schedule C if you're not incorporated or you haven't formed an LLC with a partner, okay, or a member. These are forms you kind of can't get out of. It's just they're a little bit higher on the audit scale, and only way to get out of that Schedule C would be to incorporate.
Okay, so
I wanted to go back to one thing about the realtors.
Okay.
This goes back to anybody who's in outside sales, I would believe too.
Okay.
This started last year. This was a Trump thing. So this was during Trump's tax cut.
Okay.
I don't know if a lot of people out there don't know this, but there used to be a thing called we would do meals and entertainment. Okay. So you wine and dine a client, you would deduct it. You would give them tickets to a ball game or to a theater play or something like that. Him and the wife, or her and her wife, you would do these things and you'd be able to write them off 100%. Meals and entertainment, you'd be able to write these off. Well, starting, I believe, last year, you could only write off meals. You can no longer write off entertainment. So entertainment would be buying tickets. So if I bought tickets to you, for you, Ninja, you and your lovely wife to go out somewhere, I no longer can deduct that. So that's something that realtors, people in outside sales, they probably were warned about last year. So I just want to reiterate. But if you don't know that, just keep that in mind that if I'm going to give out some tickets to a local ball game or to a play or to a movie theater or something like that, I can't deduct it. Now, the caveat is meals now is 100% deductible.
Great.
So going out by yourself in between client meetings or meeting with a client, something like that, a prospective buyer or seller, you can write that off 100%.
And one of the things I did, and I'll throw this in there. This isn't really I'm giving this as a tax preparer. I'm just as a business owner. I went ahead and called my bank up, and I had them print. And I didn't tell you this yet, Terry, but I had them print all of last year, everything. And I'm in the process of going through the entire list now and checking what is and what's not something that I think is a good business expense. And I'll be getting with you on that. But for agents that want to go back for the year, what do you recommend? Going to the bank, pulling statements, and just taking some time to go through all of them? If they had commingled, or if they didn't do the things that we know that they need to do it right, would you recommend going through the bank statements and just checking everything that looks like it was spent for business?
Yeah, see, and that's that's a great way of doing it, because if you get audited, they're going to look at your bank statements right off the bat. And the number one thing to do is make sure you report all your income. If you're 1099 and your 1099's 90,000, you have to report the full 90,000. If you paid out another commission or something like that, or split a commission, then you can back that out with commission fees. If you made, again, I have to tell you, you got to report all your income. It's up to you whether you do or not. But I have to tell you, by law, you got to report all your income, whether you're 1099 or not.
Okay.
So that's a way to keep kind of out of their hairs as well, because they look at more. They know that a lot of people fudge their numbers. That's kind of a given. The evil empire doesn't like it when you hide income from them. They know you're going to probably sneak a couple of personal expenses on your tax return.
Yeah.
Their bigger concern is like, did you make more money?
Yeah. And honestly, a lot of times they're not going to catch it. That's why people get through with it until they audit you. Once that happens, now you got to pay the piper.
Exactly. And then they could go back and look at earlier years as well. So you could be looking at a 3-5 year audit. Correct.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've answered all the questions. Here is one last question. Say we've got real estate agents watching us right now, and they've been interested in our conversation. And let's say that there are those agents that might be a couple years that they have to owe. Are you willing to take on agents like that to help get them square?
Absolutely. It's one of my specialties. Is tax resolution. So if you're behind, don't sweat it. Like I said before, I've seen it all, heard it all. It helped everybody out. I've dealt with people that were, getting a divorced and getting kicked out of their house and sleeping on the couch and everything. It's just, I've seen it and heard it all. So don't be embarrassed, or don't, just take a deep breath.
Pick up the phone or schedule him on his website.
Reach out. Reach out, fallistax.com. My phone number, if you want that, 941-274-0431. That's my cell. Feel free to text me and tell me you got my information from this webinar and this conference call. And I'll be glad to help you out, because again, that's my specialty as an enrolled agent. I basically take over. I call the IRS on your behalf, make sure whatever forms are filed have been filed. Want to make sure you're in full compliance.
Great.
Absolutely.
Last thing I want to say, and you and I had this conversation not too long ago, because I brought this to your attention, and your answer it really made sense. I have a business associate that he and I were talking, and he had multiple years of taxes that were due, right? And so he hired, and I'm not going to name the company, but he hired a national company that, quote, helps resolve old tax bills or negotiates them away, right? And I've been hearing these commercials on talk radio and different shows, tax resolution services, this, that, and the other, this company. And they all talk about the fact that all you got to do is call them, and they're going to get the IRS to take a really. So I told you that this guy had hundreds of thousands of dollars in back taxes. And I said, now, Terry, they're telling him he's only going to have to pay like $20,000. What can you do for me? And you were like, nothing. What do you say if an agent says, well, I've got all these taxes, but this company says they can negotiate for me and I won't have to owe anything? What's the common sense approach to that mentality?
That's what they call the proverbial pennies on the dollar settlement. And back in the day, like, they would turn them into mills and just pump out all these offers. And it's all a bunch of, bogus, it's just, it didn't fly. So now the IRS has cracked down. Basically, an offer on compromise is pennies on the dollar. If you don't have any assets and you owe the IRS a bunch of money, odds are, you can cut that down to a few $1,000s. But if you got some money in the IRA, if you got some money in a savings account, if you own a home and have equity in that home, then you got to pay the piper, because the IRS will want you to refinance your home. I had a client that got some really bad advice on inheritance and was told it was not tax-free. So the tax bill was $100,000. So you can imagine how big the inheritance was, because his tax bill for 1 year was $100,000. So they came to me, they referred to me, and I said, look, The only way you're going to get out of this is because you own a home that's valued at like 400,000. The IRS can force you to sell your home. They don't want to. But if you take out a mortgage and then settle this debt, I was able to get them at like a 50% haircut.
There you go.
All we have to do is take out a mortgage for like $50,000, I think, or something.
So
like that.
the moral of the story is, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So if you're that agent or that business owner, it's a good conversation to have with Terry, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to qualify for that. So that's why you need to speak to Terry or somebody like Terry to make sure that what you're doing is compliant, because at the end of the day, you do not want the evil empire coming after you. You want to make sure you're on the up and up. You get creative, right, Terry? I mean, get creative within the legal system or the rules and structures. Get creative, but
you want to stay within the boundaries. It's kind of like, you know, when you first learned how to color, right?
Yeah.
You got to just stay in between the lines. If you stay in between the lines, you're good to go. You know, like I said, if you got something, you come to me and say, look, I swear I drove 30,000 miles. If you can prove it, we're putting it on the return. If they want to audit it, as long as you can prove it, I'm down with it too. Because again, it's more about what you can prove. It's just like going in front of the judge when you get a ticket. You know, hey, what can you prove to get out of this ticket? If you can't prove anything, you got to pay the ticket.
I love it. All right, real estate agents, I appreciate you staying with me. And if you're watching this after it's no longer live, it's just dropped as a video, I'm going to go ahead in a minute and put Terry's contact information on the descriptions. But on the video, you've got fallistax.com, or email Terry at Terry. Email Terry, and his email address is terry@fallistax.com. Terry, go ahead and do your phone number one more time.
Sure. You can reach me at 941-274-0431.
Start the conversation, guys. Don't let the tax thing be that monster under your bed. Get in front of it and get some sage ninja advice. Speak with Terry or somebody like him that you're comfortable with, and make sure you guys stay compliant and healthy. Terry, thank you for joining me on today's video.
My pleasure, Buff.
This is one of the more informative ones that we've had. I really enjoy stuff like this. And I'll be having Terry back on more during the month, guys, as we come up with some good topics for you. And if you have questions,
sure. Looking forward to it.
Yep, drop them on the comments and I'll get them over to Terry. All right, Terry, I appreciate you.
Hey, you guys take it easy, okay?